Hello enthusiasts and welcome to this new video from the website www.moonwatch.fr. Today I invite you to discover a Casio G-Shock, the GWX-5600. It is a very complete tool watch from the Casio G-Shock Square collection with the added features of a tide graph and moon phase. You will also notice the new format of the introduction. Feel free to leave a comment with your thoughts. Presentation. The Casio G-Shock GWX-5600 watch is part of the Casio G-Shock Square range dedicated to water sports. Thus, compared to a Casio G-Shock GWM5600, which I have already reviewed for you, feel free to check out the video. You will find two additional functions: tide times and moon phase. However, this radio-controlled and solar-powered watch is not new. As it was announced in 2010, it has been released in several colors. And obviously this tool watch is particularly aimed at fans of water sports and surfing, hence the addition of the tide graph. This G-Shock GWX-5600 is based on the same foundation as the Casio G-Shock GW5000C, which was launched in 1983 while incorporating several modern touches. Solar charging via the solar panel, time synchronization through multiband 6 to be as close as possible to their atomic time, moon phase, tide graph, time zone, alarm, snooze, stopwatch, etc. As you can see, it's a true tool watch, a bit like other models from Casio. I had already introduced you to the famous GWX-5600. We can see that it really continues because it simply made the success of its square models. So, less known than the GW, this G-Shock Multiband 6 watch, the GWX-5600 is actually more complete. And in its black version, the model I'm presenting in this review, its look is just phenomenal. The technical specifications of this Casio G-Shock GWX-5600. It's a watch that has been produced since 2010 and is still in production. It's a model that remains quite rare on the market. You will have more difficulty finding it in stores, as in stores, they generally limit themselves to the 5610. In any case, it's a unisex watch with a resin case. The movement is the module 3215, which allows for use up to 10 months when the battery is charged. Obviously, since the battery recharges via solar energy, normally, no worries, you can have this watch for several years. It is water resistant up to 200 meters. It features a fixed bezel, i.e. 4 push buttons, quite traditional, on the squares of course. A mineral glass to protect the dial. Regarding the dimensions, it's 42.8 mm, with a thickness of 13.40 micrometer. So it's a little bit thicker than a 5610, but really just a tad, there won't be much difference. The weight is 56 grams, so we're looking at something ultra light. Resin strap, glossy effect, but it's nicer than on the 5610. You see, I'm showing you the 5610 full black again. In fact, the presence of patterns and inscriptions, which we'll see later, gives it a completely different look. The lug width is in a special format. The reference number of this model is GWX-5600, and the features include solar charging, radio control, multiband 6, illuminator, tide graph, moon phase, chronograph, countdown timer, alarm, snooze, time zone, etc. As you can see, it's a true tool watch. First of all, the square case measures 42.8 mm in width and 13.4 mm in thickness. So it is slightly thicker than that of the 5610. I will place them side by side for you. See, it's really very light. In fact, we notice that it's the back, the case back, that is slightly more significant in terms of thickness. Rest assured, on the wrist, it is difficult to tell the difference between an M5610 and this GWX. This Casio G-Shock is a unisex. The case is made of resin, ultra resistant, and, just like the strap, a glossy effect is applied to the case. While I find it feminine on my 5610, on this GWX 5600, I appreciate the look on the wrist. Next, there is a fixed bezel that protects the case and the dial. Unlike other models, the words protection, Wapakantutak, G-Shock are colored with protection in orange and G-Shock in red. This makes a huge difference on the case. It energizes the visual appearance. It's very aware. We are truly in the surfing spirit, and I love that. To continue, there are 4 push buttons at 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 8 o'clock, and 10 o'clock. Something quite traditional. This allows you to navigate between the different modes of the pre-owned module. So just like on the GW M5610, the push buttons are quite difficult to operate. I would have preferred if they were slightly larger, protruding a little bit by 0.5 millimeter. That would have greatly helped with usability, but well, it does the job. Finally, we find the case back screwed in, with 4 screws allowing for water resistance up to 200 meters. The G-Shock logo, of course, remains at the center, while around the edge we find the traditional inscriptions Water Resist 20 bar, GWX-5600, 32.5 team, stainless steel back, etc. It should be noted that this case back, once again, is slightly thicker than that of a traditional 5610. You see, I put the two side by side for you, and you can clearly see that it is thicker. Firstly, the dial is composed of 3 distinct zones. The perimeter of the watch allows capturing light, energy that will recharge the battery. This is the famous Casio G-Shock solar ring. In this area, we find several colorful inscriptions like Multiband 6, Casio, etc. Well, it gives the watch a bit of a dynamic touch. Why not? It doesn't bother me. Secondly, the next zone displays the started graph and the moon phase. So it's this area here, the superb zone. The background is blue and it stands out from the rest of the dial on the GWX-5600 with a negative display. I've put the photos on the site moonwatch.fr. Feel free to go check them out, so there's the same model, but with a negative display. I find that the readability is mediocre and not very good, whereas on this model with a positive display, honestly you can see very well the display of the started graph and the moon phase. Thirdly, we find the traditional area that allows displaying the time and other features of the Casio G-Shock GWX-5600. The layout is exactly the same as other models, Square from Casio, so you won't be confused with this model, which is more dedicated to nautical activities. In general, the time reading is excellent both day and night. Indeed, the auto illuminator is a practical feature, and the backlight of these models with a positive display is excellent. Finally, there is a mineral glass without treatment that protects the dial. It does the job, but like most G-Shock models, it scratches quite easily. That's why you can use screen protectors. I'll put a link in the description. It should cost maybe $5 or $10. It helps to slightly extend the lifespan of the mineral screen, especially if you use it a lot with, let's say, risky activities like surfing, funboarding, kite surfing, etc. This Casio G-Shock GWX-5600 surfer watch houses the Casio 3215 module. It's a module powered by a battery, CTL1666. So, exactly the same battery as on the M5610. It's a quartz movement, an electronic movement that uses QC solar technology to maintain a charge level, SHA-2, to ensure the watch's functionalities. When the watch is fully charged, the given autonomy is 10 months. So, no worries about a watch running out of power due to a drained battery. There is very little chance of that happening. The watch's accuracy is ensured by the multiband 6 radio control, which synchronizes with one of the 6 transmitters available worldwide. For us, the French, it will be via the German transmitter. Once synchronized, the watch is accurate and close to atomic time. Obviously, it's a G-Shock with a heart rate monitor, so the watch is multifunctional. We find the traditional features: chronograph, alarm, snooze, countdown timer, illuminator, world time, etc. And in addition, we find the start graphs and the moon phase. So, this difference, the addition of the start graph and moon phase, is a huge advantage for people living by the sea who might need it for nautical activities. Obviously, Casio has worked on it. The ergonomics and integration within the dial are really well thought out and do not hinder the reading of the main information. Moreover, compared to a GWM 610, you don't get the impression that the writing area is smaller. The bracelet is made of black resin with a glossy effect. It is important to specify that a grid-like texture, which I am currently showing you, is applied to the bracelet. Usually I find glossy bracelets like the one on the M5610, 5610 to 5610 to 5610 to 56 quite bland, and I think they suit women better. But here on this GWX-5600, the addition of color accents, the grid pattern, I find it our path. In fact, I was the first surprised to appreciate the look on the wrist. Regarding the fit on the wrist, it is good and secured by a simple pin buckle. Some color accents have been added to the bracelet. You can thus read Tu Cosela in orange. I have Laid in blue and Shock Resistant in yellow. These are the small differences that make me really like this bracelet, even if it has a glossy effect. It also reinforces the fact that it's a Casio G-Glide and decidedly a watch dedicated to the use of sliding sports, autoroutes and water sports. As one might expect, changing the bracelet is simple, provided you purchase kits specifically designed for the ranges. Casio 56. It will therefore be impossible to install a classic bracelet as the lug width is in a very specific format. Note that it is still quite easy to purchase and find compatible bracelets for a few dozen euros on online sites. Enough to personalize the watch if you wish. There are also titanium conversion kits that allow you to have a finish like on my Casio 5610. By the way, I will soon make a fashion video of this model to transform it into camo like this watch here. So don't hesitate to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. This will allow you to get the notification when this fashion video is released. Due to the difficulty in finding certain references of the Casio GWX-5600. In France at least, the price can vary between 250 euros and 400 euros, so it's much more than an M5610 traditional. But when you consider everything, this model has all the necessary features for nautical sports, in addition to the functions usually offered by Casio G-Shock. On the second-hand market, it's also possible to find a G-Lite GWX-5600 for around 180 euros, but in conditions that are more or less questionable, especially since most of the models you will find on eBay, for example, come from Asia, from Japan, and import fees can increase the cost. As a result, it might not necessarily be interesting to buy it second-hand. Regarding the packaging, I was quite surprised because it's not the traditional metal box. For G-Shock, this GWX-5600 comes in a nice box. It's not made of leather or faux leather, let's say, in which we find the specific documentation for the module, as well as the various papers. So, a little originality with the personal box. I find it very pretty, and I think it's nice that it's not the box, the classic box we're used to having. No, the metal box, which isn't great anyway, so ultimately it's not so bad. The packaging is neat and it's nice. To conclude, this tool watch is neither an entry-level watch nor a high-end watch. It positions itself a little in the intermediate range of the Japanese manufacturer. It is less publicized than other Casio Square watch references, but this G-Glide is really more original. To tell you the truth, I recently fell under the charm of the Casio G-Shock GW. The M5610 reference and this GWX-5600 are really very different, even though they share many points. Starting with the case. Of course, a tad thicker. If I had to keep only one, there is no doubt it would be this GWX. For one simple and good reason, it's because I live close to the sea and the tide, graph and moon phases are practical. The integration into the dial is well executed. Additionally, the positive display is a plus because it remains more readable than a negative display. And ultimately, as a result, this GWX is really designed to be used during nautical activities. This watch is not at risk. You can take hits while surfing, get knocked around. In kite surfing, the watch will not be at any risk at all. I remind you, Casio G-Shocks are water resistant up to 200 meters, so a dip and a deep dive don't scare it. These are watches designed for that, aside from the fact that the price of this GWX-5600 is more than double that of a traditional GW. It is used in the same way and has the same qualities and flaws. In the end, it's a Casio Square, a little bit supercharged, so to speak. Let's say that the 0.5 millimeter. Additionally, it still brings two interesting features: the tight graph and the moon phase. In any case, it's an excellent tool watch, comfortable, precise, autonomous, and readable both day and night. As often, Casio has done a great job and offers a timeless watch that will be hard to get tired of. For those who love digital watches, frankly, it's clearly a must-have. My presentation video on this Casio G-Shock G-Lite GWX-5600 is coming to an end. Above all, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Once again, a little click on the bell, a thumbs up, add a comment. It makes us happy, it helps the channel, it allows us to offer you more content, and above all, it keeps you informed. With our new publications, on that note, friends, I say see you soon, and I invite you to join us on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Moonwatch for... See you soon, friends.